Hi, Bill.
Good morning, Mark. Well, 8 have gone down to 6. We've seen the exit of 2 more NRL teams in this final series, and I'll tell you what, we learnt a little bit about our final 6, didn't we? There was some surprises, but there was also some dominant displays, so looking forward to diving into it.
I don't know about you, Bill, but mate, I'm still buzzing after yesterday's game out at Accor Stadium. 50,000 people, right down to the wire. We'll talk more in depth about the game as such, but the crowds, the atmosphere right across the weekend, just absolutely outstanding.
Yeah, well, I think it was reported on Channel 9 yesterday afternoon that it was record crowds across the NRL for finals week 1 in the history of the game. So it just shows you how attractive our game is at the moment, and I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about that a little bit later as well, but the game's in a really good place, and there was some entertaining footy being played.
Geez, it was cruel, though, on Saturday. You're down there at Melbourne, freezing your backside off, and then Brace and JT are in Townsville with their sunnies and polo shirts on, Bill.
I know, just rubbing it in. It was actually hailing before the Melbourne Sharks game on Saturday afternoon, and then about 5 or 10 minutes into the game, it was just a blue sky. And then 10 minutes after the game, it just poured down rain. So a typical Melbourne day, really cold down in Melbourne on the weekend. So spring has certainly not arrived just yet.
Absolutely. All right, well, let's kick it off with the Friday night game out at the foot of the mountains with the Panthers flexing their premiership muscles with a 30-10 win over the Roosters. That first half from Penrith, Bill, probably the best first half of footy we've seen from any side in a long, long time.
Well, it was a real statement, wasn't it? I don't think that they did anything that they haven't done before, but the intensity and their attitude towards it certainly went up a gear. I think that's what people always say, can you find another gear in finals? And it's not finding another brilliant play or trying to push the limits too much. It's about going after your game with more intensity, with a great attitude, and doing it for a longer period of time. And that first half against the Panthers, it was the first game of the semi-finals, of the semi-final series, and they looked like they wanted to go out and put a statement out there towards the rest of the competition, and they certainly did that. Everyone else that would have been sitting at home watching, that haven't played just yet, they would have been watching that going, okay, well, the Panthers have just risen the bar. The bar's been set, and we've got to rise to it. So it was a great way to start our final series. And the Roosters, they were on the receiving end of it, and they had absolutely no answers in that first half.
Were the Roosters bad, or were the Roosters still, at a standard where you think that they can go on to next week and win? Because it seems like everyone's talking about the Panthers and not giving any credit to the Roosters, who ended up winning the second half, Bill.
Well, I think it's a little bit of both. I think the Roosters will review this game and review the first half and go, okay, well, we missed the mark there. We missed the mark with our contact. We missed the mark with our game. And on the flip side, the Panthers were absolutely ruthless. They gave the Roosters nothing. They didn't help them up off the ground, and they just kept nailing that nail into the coffin. And everyone was talking about Nathan Cleary coming back with his shoulder, and is he going to hold up defensively? Well, I tell you what, your attack helps your defence, and Nathan certainly helps the Panthers' attack, and he everything just felt like it fell into place better. It was more organised, and Nathan just controlled things. It's amazing how he can be out for so long, and his first game back, and he's done it before, play to the top part of his standard. Like that's an incredible professionalism that Nathan has to be able to do that. Not just once. That's a common occurrence for Nathan when he comes back from injury. He's at the top of his game.
Is he on track, do you think, and this is the storylines around today, is he on track to be one of our great players of all time when you consider he's 26, he's already won 3 comps, he's featured in 4 grand finals. I mean, the world's at his feet, and he's such a good footballer, Bill.
Well, he is. He's already one of the great players of our game. Sometimes we want to put players above other players, and every player is different. Jonathan Thurston's different to Cooper Cronk, who's different to Nathan Cleary, to Andrew Johns, and then you've got positional differences as well. The body shapes and different attributes that you need for different positions, and there's different ways to play the game and different errors that the game is very different now to what it was at the start of the 2000s. So, sometimes we want to jump to, trying to rank players and put them above players and all this sort of stuff. But he is certainly one of the great players of our game's history right now. And he's only halfway through his career. So, he's going to continue. Hopefully, he stays injury-free. But the way that he plays, and the way that the game is, there's going to be injuries. We see it with our star players already. And you look at Pappenhausen and Trebojevic and Cleary. And, there's a number of times that they've been out of the game for long periods because of the physical nature of our game. But he's already one of the great players of our game.
You're right. It's impossible to compare eras, and when he decides to retire from the game, which is still a long, long way away, we'll have those discussions on where he ranks as one of the great players. But at the moment, he is one of the top-line NRL players. We move to Saturday down at Amy Park, and the Melbourne Storm, another side that played extremely well, beating the Sharks 37 points to 10. So the Storm straight through to another preliminary final. I think it's their 9th in 10 years or something along those lines, Bill.
Yeah, they're the other team that didn't give their opposition too much of a leg up. They completed at 95%, and that's the focus going into finals is not beating yourself, and the Melbourne Storm didn't do that. Look, there's a lot of pressure on the Cronulla Sharks at the moment. I look at the first half, and they were running into a stiff breeze, Cronulla. They went into halftime 4 points down, and there was 2 tries apiece from each side. So there's a little bit to work with there from Cronulla, and they didn't play their best footy. Melbourne were certainly consistent. I don't think they were at their best, but they did enough to get over the Sharks. And Cameron Munster didn't leave it to chance. He took the game by the scruff of the neck. He ran the footy. He was heavily involved. Eli Katoa he's a wonderful player, and he's having quite the season. He's such a strike player on that right-hand side of the field, and Will Warbrick's gone to another level this year as well. So they're getting an even contribution from across the park, Melbourne. They're not relying on their superstar key position players, and everyone's just doing their job, which Craig Bellamy demands. That's his greatest strength is everyone contribute to the footy team. And you'll see the likes of Munster and Pappenhausen and Harry Grant, who scored 3 tries. They'll shine when everyone's doing their job, but they're the other team that's going to take some beating this year.
Yeah, he was full of praise, Craig Bellamy, for Harry Grant, who scored those 3 tries, and spoke after the game about why he made him the captain. And he's a great leader, a great player, and a great hooker in our game, Bill.
Yeah, well, the great leaders are consistent performers, and Harry's one of them now. He's elevated himself to one of those consistent performers every week. He plays a key position. And being in and around the Melbourne Storm, number one, when he talks and what he talks about is relevant, and because it's relevant, everyone listens. He's a player that has a lot of respect within his teammates. He has a lot of respect within the club, and he understands the game. He doesn't talk rubbish, and he only talks the important stuff. And I think it was a really good decision to make Harry Grant captain, and I think he'll be a captain for the Melbourne Storm for a long time.
We have a look at the Sharks. A couple of mistakes from Will Kennedy early days, which didn't help them.
Real early days, wasn't it?
Really, really early days. Nico Hines failed to find touch at one point. I don't know what it is about Nico, but he's spoken about his mental health and all that in the past. Is he one of these players that just needs to learn how to put mistakes behind him and just move on? Because it seems like a lot of the talk around the Sharks, when you talk about a player in a position like halfback, Nico Hines and everything else, it seems like he's always the focus. Does he just need to learn how to put that behind him and get on with the game?
Well, when you play a key position and your team's heavily reliant on your performance, that's just the nature of the game. The NRL is a highly scrutinised occupation, and every good thing you do will be praised, and every negative thing that you do will be criticised. That's just the nature of our game, and the best thing to do is not listen to the good stuff and not listen to the bad stuff. It helps you in zero capacity. It's not going to benefit you at all. And players just need to get on with the game. Will Kennedy made an error off the kickoff, and he just misjudged it. You got to get on with it. You got to move on. You got to move past it. you score a try, you have to move past it and focus on the next thing. So there's always going to be mistakes. There's no such thing as a perfect footballer or a perfect game. You've just got to have that ability to move past it quick, and the Sharks need to do that. Nicho Hynes needs to do that this week. They're still alive in the competition. They could be the Knights. They could be the Bulldogs, but they're not. They've earned the opportunity to have a second crack at it, and they get to play the Cowboys this week, and they need to move past what happened last Saturday afternoon.
We then go to Townsville with North Queensland beating Newcastle 28 points to 16 in the first of the eliminators, and the Cowboys in front of a big crowd in North Queensland got the cash and they lived to fight another day.
They did, didn't they? And they've had to fight back. They were down at half time and they fought back in the second half. I thought there was a 10-minute period after half time that Scott Drinkwater really got involved in the game. He was involved in the try that went out to the left-hand side. Murray Taulagi scored it in the corner, but he started the movement. And then the second try to Jordan McLean, that was all Scott Drinkwater. He really attacked the defensive line, skipped across, and then picked up a straight running Jordan McLean. That play put the Cowboys level put the Cowboys in front, to be honest. They put them in front, and then they believed they could win the game. But that 10-minute period was really important for the Cowboys. Wasn't Kalen Ponga a star? Isn't he such a good player to watch? And I thought he was the best player on the field, Kalen, in the losing side. Everything good that the Knights did, Kalen was surrounded around it, and his footwork was unbelievable. They had an opportunity to draw level, but Kalen couldn't kick that goal, and then they made a line break, and they just couldn't ice that moment. But all in all, I thought they gave a good account of themselves up there in Townsville, and it's certainly one that got away from them.
And just on the Knights, Bill, I heard Andrew Johns talking after the game on 9 over the weekend. He made a good point in the sense that there's a lot of the good players in that football side. Kalen Ponga missed a bit of footy this year through injury and everything else. Kalen Ponga's on the football field for the majority of the year. They're really challenging for finals footy. So for them to get through this year, they're only going to improve on that next year and the years ahead. Yeah,
look, I agree to a certain extent. They were in the finals, and Kalen was there, and they weren't quite good enough to beat the Cowboys. So I still think there needs to be improvement. I think there needs to be roster improvement. I think when you rely on Kalen Ponga to be the star, and he was the star on Saturday night, and they still couldn't quite get it done, that's an issue for me. I think they still need to improve their roster, and especially the key positions around Kalen. You have a look at the Melbourne Storm. They got Harry Grant, Ryan Pappenhausen, Hughes, and Munster. All right, Newcastle don't have that quality in their key positions. You need to build that. Look at Nathan Cleary, Jerome Luai. You got Dylan Edwards at the back. Kennedy, Mitch Kenny in at number 9. Like that's a high quality key position area. So I just think that Newcastle need to improve that if they're going to challenge for anything.
All right, then we go to Sunday with Manly sneaking home to beat the Bulldogs 24-22. The Bulldogs supporters, all probably 40,000 of them, thought they were on track for a semi-final, and then Manly, they're never beaten. They clawed their way back to end up winning the game, and it was Ruben Garrick's boot who put them in front, and they held on, Bill.
Levy, I'm not sure about yourself, but I was there in the commentary box next to you watching and calling the game. I could not believe what I was seeing. The dominance that the Bulldogs had over the game and had over their opposition in terms of field position, line speed, winning the ruck, winning the play the ball, it was lopsided. I could not believe that Manly was still in the game at the end of the game. And then a bit of brilliance by Tolu Kola. They ran the ball on the last because they couldn't get out of their own end, Manly. And they couldn't kick it out because they were running into a breeze. And they ran it, got the ball to Tom Trbojevic through the middle. He threw a Hail Mary pass, offload, pass, got it to Kola in a bit of space, and he did the rest. What a finish it was. Ruben Garrick had the kick to put them in front and absolutely drained it. It was such a good game to be at. I still can't believe that Manly are still alive in this final series and the Bulldogs are on holidays. It was a miraculous game, but just shows you if things aren't going your way, hang in there, defend. Things might turn for you.
You know, the other one that got me in that game when we were calling it on radio was from the scrum, that set play when Cherry Evans sliced through and scored for Manly. That was another great moment in that game for Manly.
Perfect. And you know, they're the moments when you're sitting in your meeting room and you're looking at vision and you're going, okay, well, what if this player runs here and then you play straight here and I'll come from this area and there might be a bit of space there. If we can manipulate that space, I reckon I can get into it. And that would have been the conversation with the Manly Sea Eagles, with Daly and Luke Brooks and Tom Trbojevic, who was the decoy at the back, and Stephen Crichton. He gets up nice and high, and I can see the exact conversation that would have went on with Anthony Seibold in the meeting room, and then for it to open up, Daly would have just thought, well, I've won the lotto here, and that was a play that got them back in. That gave them a bit of energy. It filled their fuel tank back up, and then they went on with it after that, and Tolu Kola did the rest. But the other guy that I thought was outstanding, and he has been for a while, is Harmoli Olakau'atu.
Yeah,
he was a real beast up against Viliami Kikau. He created line breaks. He was hard to tackle. He was probably the only damaging runner for the Manly Sea Eagles for much of that game, and I thought it was a brave effort from Tom Trbojevic as well. His shoulder is nowhere near 100%. It'd be lucky to be 50%, but you know, to play 80 minutes out there, put his body on the line, he'd be nice and sore today, and he's only got a 6-day turnaround. That'll be a tough one to get up for against the Roosters.
That's going to be a problem for him, isn't it, next week? There's only so much strapping and needling you can do before it really starts to hurt. Well,
I've had a grade 3 AC injury. I've had to get an operation at the end of the year. I think I played 4 or 5 weeks later after it. He wouldn't be able to put his seatbelt on. He wouldn't be able to, you know, grab the Vegemite out of his cupboard today. It would be that sore, and you know, it just shows you the toughness, the courage, and the bravery that some of these players are playing with. And there'd be a lot of players out there that we have no idea what injuries they're covering up and they're playing with. But it was evident that Tommy was certainly in some sort of discomfort yesterday, and he's going to be for the rest of the year. But the Manly Sea Eagles need their star fullback.
And just on the Bulldogs, Billy, you mentioned Viliami Kikau. I call him Viliami Kikau QC or SC with that barrister's wig that he wears on top of his head.
Call him whatever he wants to be called.
He was amazing yesterday.
Yeah. There was that charge down moment as well, which he's known for, and he didn't quite get the ball back. That was a big play. Lehigh Hopewadi got back there, but yeah, that was always going to be a great battle. Olakau'atu and Kikau, two of the premier back rowers in our comp, going head to head.
It was fantastic. All right, well, that's a look back at week 1 of the final. Stay listening. We'll preview week 2 very shortly. We've got the Tab Eras debate coming up, all ahead on the Billy Slater Podcast, thanks to Ram Trucks and Tab. Rugby League has had its fair share of iconic eras. But honestly, I can't get enough of the high-scoring, line-breaking, flick-passing, magic-rounding, origin drought-breaking, Vegas-flying, simply the best era of footy we're in right now. And with more stats, insights and markets than ever, it's the best time in sport, and Tab has the best app in sport. Tab, we're on. What are you really gambling with? For free and confidential support, visit gamblinghelponline.org.au. Well, time for the Tab Eras debate. The time for sport is now, thanks to Tab. What's gambling really costing you? For free and confidential support, visit gamblinghelponline.org.au. And the question we're posing today, Billy Slater, is this the most entertaining era of rugby league? We spoke earlier about comparing different eras and all that sort of thing, but one thing's for sure and certain, the entertainment factor at the moment in the National Rugby League is right up there.
Yeah, I think there's a few ways to look at this and a few ways to judge this. The first is the attendance to our games. I spoke at the top of the show about the most attended finals week 1 of all time this year. That shows you that people want to go to our game and want to go and watch our game live. That's a great tick for this era right now. And the other one is the numbers on television are incredible as well. Our game's in a really good place in terms of viewing. Is it the most entertaining era of all time? Probably. I think the product is the most entertaining product. It has less dead time, more game time, and the game flows. The speed of the game is as quick as it's ever been. There's plenty of points scored, plenty of tries scored. It's exciting. We've got golden point. I think it is, but that's been manipulated as well by rule changes. It's the business people in the NRL think about the product and think about the entertainment product more now than what they have in the past. I do have this feeling inside me of when I was a kid and watching the Simply the Best era, the late 80s, the 90s. That was what drew me to the game. And I still hear that song, Simply the Best. It's our song, right? Mm. And that still gives me goosebumps. That still brings back memories of the enjoyment and the entertainment that the game gave me when I was a kid. So that's going to be hard to beat for me because that was the foundation of footy for me and what it meant to me. But I think the product now is as good as it's ever been.
The thing I love too these days, Billy, is the unpredictable nature of our game. Like we saw that yesterday in that Canterbury-Manly game. Canterbury going along great guns, Manly all of a sudden, couple of tries, get themselves back into the game. The unpredictable nature of rugby league, which makes the product so exciting.
Well, you have a look at the Cowboys Knights game and the opening try, the first try of the game. Kalen Ponga beats about 5 players, creates an opportunity for Newcastle, and then Kyle Felt just plucks it out of the air, intercept, runs 80 metres. Like that, you tell me a game that one team and the fans of one team get on their feet, get out of their seats and excited about scoring a try, and then within half a second, they sit down and the other team get up and they're scoring a try. Like that's the excitement of our game. That's what it can create, and our players do that for the people who are watching it. And it's an amazing game, and it's as good as ever.
Here's a question to you, Bill. I think a lot of people listening to this podcast, including me, whenever you got the ball in your playing days, you just expected something to happen. You were one of the entertainers of the game. Who are some of the players that you've watched in the past and some of the players today who excite you and sort of make you jump up off your seat because something's going to happen? Yeah,
good question. Definitely in the past, it was Alan Langer. There was a guy that played for the Cowboys. His name was Reggie Cressbrook. He was one of my favourite players as well. I was a North Queensland lad, and when the Cowboys came in the competition in '95, Reggie Cressbrook was one of those players. He played on the wing, played fullback. He was an exciting player. But Alan Langer was my favourite player as a youngster, and probably because of that, he just got me out of my seat, and he showed me that the little man can do great things in our game. Players of today. Suafalongo is one of those guys that everyone just loves watching play, and the smaller guys are usually the most electric. Keanu Kinney, he's one. I love watching Jaden Campbell play. He's a brilliant player because he can do it with his feet, but he can also do it with his passing game and his skill. So there's a number of players. Reece Walsh is another one. Kalen Ponga at the moment. Number of players that really get you out of your seat and make you turn your TV on.
Fantastic. Well, there you go. The TAB Eras debate. It's all thanks to TAB. The time for sport is now. What's gambling really costing you? For free and confidential support, visit gamblinghelponline.org.au. Now, Billy M Award winners, Billy. I feel like we need some grand opener and, like bells and whistles and everything else and trophies. So the Billy M Award winners for the regular season, third place, Raiders and Warriors in a tie. Second place, go to the Melbourne Storm. And first place in the Billy M Awards goes to the Roosters. So
the team of the week this week for the Billy M Awards is none of those teams.
Ooh. Who are you giving it to?
I'm giving it to the Penrith Panthers. I thought the Panthers were the team of the week. There was some good performances. Manly yesterday was incredible. Different performance to get the win. The Cowboys were great. Melbourne Storm were great, but I just think the Panthers, they made a real statement, and they were as clinical and as impressive as anyone in the competition this weekend. And I think they're the team to beat. Off that first half against the Roosters, that's going out there and making your own luck. That's going out there and going after your footy and not giving the opposition anything. They know how to get it done at this time of the year, and they've certainly risen the bar. They're the team to beat, and they're the team of the week.
The Billy M Awards for the players. Third place goes to Kalen Ponga. Second place goes to James Tedesco. And the winner after the regular season, Jerome Hughes from the Melbourne Storm. Hasn't he had a great year, Bill?
I don't think it'll be the last award that he wins this year. I really hope he picks up the Dally M. I know when you play in a team with a lot of quality around you, you get some points taken off you. But I think, in the absence of Cameron Munster for the majority of the year, Ryan Pappenhausen's been out. He's been the glue to the Melbourne Storm, and he's the real controller. There's some, let's say, erratic type of players in the Melbourne Storm, and I think the number 6 comes to mind when you talk about an erratic player. But he is just the controlling influence, but he's got so much dangerous attributes to his game as well. I think he may pick up the Dally M Award, but he's a wonderful player. And this week's winner is not in that list either.
Ooh, who is it?
He's from the Panthers as well, and he come back from injury. It's Nathan Cleary. First half, clinical. I just thought, he was the most influential player out of any team. He just makes such a difference. He's a wonderful player, and it's the reason why we're having the conversation around Andrew Johns and Jonathan Thurston and these type of halfbacks. When you're having those conversations around those type of halfbacks, you're a good player.
I'm just thinking about Munster. They're getting cheeky down there at the Storm. I love seeing you and Cam Smith interviewing the boys, and at the end, big fan, Bill, big fan.
He's a rat, isn't he? He's got a great way of keeping the mood relaxed. Yeah. And even when it gets uptight, even when it gets serious, it might be one word or a comment here and there, and you should sit in some of the Melbourne Storm meetings, and Craig Bellamy will be really serious up the front, and and then Cameron Munster will just say something, and it'll just bring everything back down. So, no, he's a good personality to have around, man.
Absolutely. All right, let's get into some of the listener questions. You can email them through Billy Slater Podcast at 9.com.au. First one's from Blake. Billy, what are your thoughts on the NRL taking the Sharks home final to Allianz Stadium? Fair game?
I understand it. I totally understand the decision to take it to Allianz or a bigger stadium. What can Shark Park fit in? 13,000 at the
12,
moment.
13, yeah.
So that's you need to give more people an opportunity to come and watch our semi-finals, and it's unfortunate because I feel the Sharks have earned the opportunity to play at home. So they're going to finish 4th, and they're not going to have a home game at all. So that I do understand that aspect. I remember when we were playing at Olympic Park, we had to take our home game to a bigger venue. We weren't allowed to play at Olympic Park. I understand it from the NRL's point of view, and I agree with it, but I do feel for the Sharks, and I understand their perspective of it as well. They've worked so hard throughout the year to earn a home final, and they don't get one. So... Yeah, it's a tough one, but I think the right decision was made. They're playing the Cowboys at the end of the day, so the Cowboys have got to travel down to Sydney. So they're still playing in Sydney.
And there was a bit of talk that they might play it out at CommBank at Parramatta, but then the NRL said, well, it's a bit hard for people in the Shire to get out to Parramatta to watch their team on a Friday night. So, look, the one thing that I will say is if you are going to the game on Friday, get out there early because the Swans play Port Adelaide next door. So it's going to be a very, very busy precinct on Friday there at Moore Park, Bill.
Well, if you make the grand final, and let's say you play the Melbourne Storm in the grand final, you get to play in Sydney. That's an advantage. Yeah. So, it's a tough one, but there's advantages and disadvantages all over the place. And at the end of the day, if you're in Sydney, you can't play at your home, but you can still play in Sydney. Grand finals in Sydney, so that's got to be an advantage for you.
Yeah, it is what it is. One from Andy. Billy, despite making finals this year, would you give the Knights season a pass or fail? Interested to hear your thoughts.
Absolutely. Yes, I do. I think it's a success. I think Adam O'Brien has done a great job at Newcastle. You put Nathan Cleary and Jerome Luai in that Newcastle team. What sort of team are they? Munster and Hughes. Like I said, I just think that they need to improve the the top end quality of their key positions, and they're obviously doing a lot of team stuff right to make the semi-finals and put themselves in a position to win that first final. They'd be disappointed with a few moments. They'd like those few moments over again, but that's the way footy goes. I think it's a tick. Yeah, tick for me.
All right. We're getting down to the business end of the NRLW season. Wins to the Tigers, the Broncos. The Knights big winners over the Titans. The Roosters beat the Cowboys and the Eels defeated the Raiders. And before we go, week 2 of the finals, which you'll see live and free on 9 and you'll hear with the continuous call team on radio 2GB and 4BC. Sharks and Cowboys kick us off Allianz Stadium Friday night. Billy, who are you going to tip?
I've no idea. I've absolutely no idea in both of these games. Oh, Sharks, Cowboys. I'm going to go the Cowboys. They're on a bit of a roll at the moment. They've just got a bit of a look in their eye. I like the way that Tommy Dearden and Ruben Cotter are playing. I think the Cowboys can go down to Sydney and shake up the Sharks.
Well, they've got a bit of momentum, haven't they? And, momentum's key in any game. So, Cowboys to beat the Sharks for you in that first game. And then Saturday night, Roosters and Manly.
Yeah, I'm really concerned about Tom Trbojević's shoulder. What sort of health is he going to be in a 6-day turnaround? I just think the Roosters might need to shake things up a little bit as well. I think they get Jared Warrior-Hargraves back and Victor Radley. Mm-hmm. If Victor Radley comes back in, I would be tempted to play him in the middle of the field, put Joey Manu at 6 and move Luke Keary to halfback. I'd be using Sandon Smith off the bench in a dummy half role. I think they can really shake things up, and I think they need to shake things up. It's desperate times for the Roosters. I think they need to throw caution to the wind. Wayne Bennett did it a couple of weeks ago and got a reaction out of his team. They went on and beat the Broncos in great fashion. So I think the Roosters can actually make a few changes here and positional changes and try something different.
Great stuff. All right, Bill. Well, you enjoy the week, all the storylines leading into week 2 of the finals, and we'll see you on the telly this weekend. Bring it on. We're getting closer to the big dance, the grand final for 2024.
How good. Thanks, Levy.
Good on you, mate. There he is, Billy Slater. This is the Billy Slater Podcast. Thanks to Ram Trucks. They eat everything else for breakfast. And Tab, we're on. Gamble responsibly.
You win some, you lose more. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.
This year, NRL on 9 is your one-stop shop for all footy.
That's right, Freddie. Not about the highlights, action, 7 days a week.
Billy and Gus podcast, get that on your drive on the way home. Immortal Behaviour, grab a seat on the couch for that. And of course, my favourite, Freddie in the Own.
The best footy brains, the biggest games.
Don't trust the algorithm, subscribe to NRL on 9 and get all your entertainment there.